India makes up 70% of this country, and these areas are constantly battling with lack of resources of basic amenities like clothing, shelter, food, water, electricity and more. And this poses an opportunity for social entrepreneurs to come in and try to bridge this resource gap between rural and urban India. To tell us more about the landscape of social entrepreneurship in this country, we have with us today one of the leading social entrepreneurs of India, Mr. Anshu Gupta, who is the founder of the non-profit Goonj. He is also known as the clothing man of India, and we're going to find out why. So, sir, could you tell us where this clothing man of India title first came from?
Titles are given by some other people, so I don't know who gave this title and how it became so popular, the title also. But I think the whole idea of Goonj was to work on clothing, and in a typical non-charity model, because although I mean if you see worldwide, the biggest charitable object has been old material. Our idea has been that how can we really move it out of charity, and we say that it becomes a development resource where you work and you get it. So it's like a parallel currency.
So let's talk about your background. You had a corporate life background initially, you were a freelance journalist for some time, and then you got into the space of social entrepreneurship. So how did this journey come about for you?
Listen, in those days, people like us who have studied in Hindi medium and all, we didn't even know how many E's come in entrepreneurship. It's just very simple. So it's something like that, you are passionate about something, or you see a problem and you see the gravity of that problem and you get into that.
So everything is accepted. You have all kinds of materials from utensils. I've seen books, cloth, all kinds of things coming in. So how does it actually work once it comes into Goonj? What is that process?
So listen, the biggest problem with the donation is that you give what you have, you don't give what people need. Right. That's a critical gap. The second thing which we challenge, we said that listen, when you give your second-hand material, ideally you should not call it donation. Okay. It's a discard. Yes. Okay. And you need to be thankful to the people who are using your second-hand material. Yes. Okay. Otherwise, it would have gone in landfill sites and all the way in many other countries it is.
And generated more waste.
Generated more waste. Correct. And although it has a scope to be reused. Okay. Second thing, we connected rural India with the urban material. And we said that the biggest asset of village people is their self-respect, is their dignity. I mean, you don't find beggars in the villages. Okay. Begging is a city phenomenon. Right. So why do we do charity? So, in a way, this is what when we were awarded, we were actually chosen as one of the game-changing innovation by NASA. Yes. It's about 4 or 5 years back. Yes. And a very beautiful sentence came up. We said that this is the genesis of a parallel economy, which is not cash-based but trash-based.
Speaking of a cash-based and not cash-based economy, I must ask you this. Demonetization, we are 2-3 weeks into demonetization now. How has this actually affected the social entrepreneurship space?
Listen, no one is saying that it is a bad idea and all that. I think every single person has only questioned the implementation part of it and the problem part of it. Now, because it is not implemented in a decent way, it has affected business in a big way. It has affected income of a lot of people, and I know for sure that the moment anything happens to the income of people, the biggest impact come on the social part. Right. Because I often tell people that maybe the moment you are in problem, the religious institution will have more money. Okay. Yeah. And the social institution will have less money. Because that always happens through the last part of your income, and which is right or wrong, I'm not saying, but that's how the society operates. Correct. Most of us sitting in the cities and all, cash and check, to be honest, doesn't matter, because ultimately it is a contribution from people which is coming, so it can come in check. Like in our case, most of it comes through check and all that. Okay. But in many areas, people who are dependent on the smaller amount which is generated from the village itself or the small town itself, it is a big impact for sure, because that's where we don't have the check or all kind of card kind of economy. Right. It's simple. So obviously the effect is there.
At that point the effect is there. Okay, so under the umbrella of Goonj, there are many different projects, different programs. One of the, my personal favorite, one of those is the Not Just a Piece of Cloth, that sanitary napkins for women. That was started after the 2003 tsunami. Then you had a lot of, flood relief happening in the Uttarakhand tsunami flood in 2013. Kashmir flood in 2014. So we see that disasters bring out a lot of, social consciousness and social help from people. But it's not needed just in times of disasters, right? We need social help, we need socially conscious people at all points in time. So how do we tackle this? People coming in just to help during disasters like we saw in the Chennai floods recently.
So, I think one of the basic reason you can say why Goonj was started, and one of the first sentence which we used to say is that why do you wait for a disaster when half the world does not need a disaster? I mean, poverty itself is a big disaster. Yes. Even if I talk about cloth, why do you need a flood to be flooded with clothes? It's very simple. So it has to be constant. And I think it is a responsibility of the citizens of the country, apart from obviously the government and many, many other agencies, that we get into this and we don't wait for a disaster to happen. And wherever possible, we pitch in. And all this, to be honest, for me, the debate, the intellectual debate on business entrepreneurship versus social entrepreneurship is all crap.
Okay.
It's a very simple thing, because
Why do you say so?
No, because I personally feel that any good money is good money, So if you say that social entrepreneurship is only the one where the venture money comes or where the investment has to happen, all that, I don't agree with that. I always call it something like a havan. Okay. So the basic thing about havan is that every single person, whosoever gets into havan, does his or her ahuti.
Right. Everyone contributes.
Everyone contributes. Right. So you have time, you contribute time. You have money, you contribute money. I have kida in my mind, I'll do that. And that's how it happens. So social good is something like that.
Okay. So if someone wants to contribute by becoming a social entrepreneur, you started back in 2000 and it's been a long time since, Goonj was started, and the landscape of India has changed a lot since then. In 2015, we saw this startup boom and a lot of social ventures came through that. So do you think it's easier for a social entrepreneur today as it was for you all those years back?
It is comparatively for sure, because there is at least it is a buzzword. A lot of talks are happening and some good concepts are happening. A lot of fraud is also happening.
Okay.
It's a simple.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah, it's a simple thing, because many hardcore business institutions in a fashion are also calling themselves social entrepreneurship and all, which happens with any booming or a good or bad concept ultimately. But yes, this is a good phase, and we have enough opportunities to do something.
Okay.
The basic difference what I see, when I go for all these lectures and all, I always tell people that if you talk about the business entrepreneurship often create needs.
Create needs. Okay, that's interesting.
Often. Social entrepreneurship, I feel the major role is to fulfill needs.
Yes. So since you say you have to have that crazy idea, when you had the first crazy idea of Goonj, what was the reaction that you got? Family, friends, what did they say to you?
Listen, the family was okay, for sure. Obviously, because I come from an average middle class family where my father was in a government job and Meenakshi, my wife's father, was in a government job. Yes. So obviously, but they still, because maybe it was good that we created a lot of trust before that in our life, so it was not that big issue. Okay. Society, in any case, in those days we had limited friends and all. Okay. But whole lot of people ultimately suggested like in Delhi they used to say कि यार कुछ करना है तो ढंग का करो. If you want to do something,
you have to do it properly. Okay. Which sectors do you think, if people want to enter with social entrepreneurship, there's people doing it in education, health, agriculture, all kinds of spaces. So which do you think is underrepresented or little neglected at the moment where more entrepreneurship needs to come in?
Listen, whole lot of people are working on primary education.
Primary education. Okay.
Now, a 5th grade studied farmer or a farmer who has not studied, is there a big difference?
Not that much.
So why are we wasting money? If you do not take care of people in the villages, you force them to migrate. When I migrated from Dehradun, I migrated out of choice. Okay. Large part of this country migrates because of compulsion. Why compulsion? Because
more job opportunity.
Why there is no job? Because there is no agriculture. Why no agriculture? Because there is no water. Yes. How many of us are actually working on water? The India, even if you talk about the tech world, right. I often debate this. I said, listen, roti.com likh ke you will not get roti. but that's a misconception.
Yes. Okay. There's so many NGOs, so many social entrepreneurs I know about through Facebook, Twitter, all these social media platforms. They've become very helpful to get the word out. So have you experienced this?
Now we have almost about 150,000 people on Facebook and about 500,000 people on Twitter.
Correct.
Imagine.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the power.
Yes.
So that's a huge power. And especially at the time of disaster, we have been able to use it in a very effective way.
Do you have one piece of advice for a budding social entrepreneur that wants to get into this space in India? What would you advise them?
Listen, it doesn't matter at the end of the day
Okay.
whether you have resources or not, whether the ecosystem has become easy or not.
Okay.
If you have to do, you have to do.
Okay. If you have to do, you have to do.
You have to do. If you really think that this is a solution, this is or this is something which is troubling you, you just have to jump.
Just have to jump. Okay. I think that's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Catch the Heads Up episodes you might have missed during the week at these times only on NDTV Prime.